Hello and welcome to Short on Shorts. I'm your host, Isaac Simpson, senior editor of Colaborator.com. I'm here as always with my co-host, screenwriter Kevin Allen Jackson, costume designer Maria Perry, and our special guest today is Astrea Campbell-Cobb. She's our first hyphenated last name guest, so we're very excited to have her here today.
Very, very honored.
We're moving to the new world where everybody has hyphenated last names.
It's 2015. It's about time.
Is that were you born with that hyphenated last name?
I was born with it.
Okay.
I woke up like this.
So your mom is a feminist?
Absolutely, very much so.
Cool.
They're both funky people. I got a little bit of column A, a bit of column B.
Interesting.
You know.
Okay, well, without further ado, let's just get to our films. Our first film is called Actresses. It is written and directed by Jeremy Hirsch and is starring Rebecca Henderson and Taylor Hess. It is a slice-of-life film about actresses in New York City who have a lesbian relationship. It premiered I don't know if it premiered at Sundance, but it showed at Sundance. And I believe it's Kevin's pick.
It is my pick. I saw it at South by Southwest, actually.
Yes, so as this is pretty slice-of-lifey for you. You tend to be more narrative-focused, but this is pretty simple, straightforward dialogue.
Yeah. You know what? This is one of those movies where it's one of those rare movies where it's really just the execution, you know? And I mean, I don't know if stories about actors are interesting to anybody outside of, you know, the entertainment business, but I know that actor. I mean, I don't know the real actor. I mean, I know the type of person they're portraying, that level of insecurity. So I can definitely relate to that. And I just thought they were both very good. I believed them. I was engaged in their relationship. There's genuinely not much about this movie that goes in places we haven't seen before. But it's very well executed. It's shot well, it's acted well, it's written well, and it's an engaging 12 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah, so just to explain a little bit, one of the actresses has an extreme insecurity and need to have her partner constantly tell her that she's a great actress. And it's definitely cringeworthy at times, I would say, how much she needs the affirmation. So as an actress yourself, how did you relate to this film?
I definitely can see, being an actor, it's you live in the world of rejection and constant trying to be validated. I think that goes for any sort of creative career, though. But I agree. I definitely know that actor.
Right.
I definitely know that actor, and I think maybe everyone passes through that stage, and I do think it can be a phase of being in a very, very insecure spot of constantly needing validation and affirmation that your work is good, that you are good, that because you and your work is the same thing, so if your work isn't good, then you're shit, which is a pretty destructive feeling.
Yeah.
And then what I liked about the film is that you can see it affect all of the relationships. Having to grasp onto a relationship to find the validation.
Right.
Yeah, I don't necessarily identify with it in my own life, but I do see it in lots of other people that I do know.
I really enjoyed that it was as awkward as it was. I found it almost hard to watch because it was so awkward, but what I really liked about it was that this is a narrative starring two women who are in a relationship, who are having a troubled relationship, but it wasn't a lesbian-specific narrative. This is a problem that any relationship can have. And it's definitely a problem that living in LA, I've seen a lot of my friends' relationships go through. And so I really liked that about it, but I did feel that there was a problem wherein one of the big issues that's addressed by one of the partners in this relationship is that she's seen as a 2D character, but both of the characters are presented as 2D to the viewer. So you don't actually get much into them beyond the specific aspect of the relationship that isn't working.
Wait a second, what do you mean by 2D?
There's only like one facet of this human being. They don't feel like full people to me. They feel like, because they're only presenting the information necessary to talk about the problem with their relationship, there's literally no other information about their life.
Well, what about in the end there when they start talking about
But
their
when you bring it
families?
up as a problem, I feel like you needed to set it up as, well, this is a problem sooner, you know? Because we don't have any backstory about them until they're like, you don't even remember my backstory, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
I felt like that was lacking for me.
I think that is a good point. I don't know if I necessarily agree that I would have needed more information to make them feel a little more fleshed out, because I do what I think was really successful about the performances were that we only got this glimpse into their life, but I knew who they were. I knew the type of person they were. I knew how I just felt like I knew how their other relationships were, what they did on a day-to-day basis.
And they felt quite real, you know.
Yeah.
One felt like kind of the alpha who seemed probably like the more selfish one at first, but then really it turned out that the kind of meek one was really the most self-centered one of all, you know, which I thought that was an interesting.
And the thing is that we definitely know this person, right? And so for us, we can relate to it. I wonder if there's enough crossover for the rest of the world, right? That a general audience would like this movie. But I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. I definitely did. And I remembered the point I wanted to make earlier that you raised that I thought was great, which was how this is a movie about this person not being able to distinguish between who she is and her career anymore, and thinking that if she's crap as an actress, that she's crap as a person. That's also really specific, I think, to creative people. That line between who you are and what you do gets blurred all the time, and that might be fascinating to other people just to watch.
Because success, that's the weird thing. It's like everybody's like, you're a fame whore, and it's like, well, success inherently relies on being liked. I mean, that's kind of the problem with it, right?
Sure.
So how do you avoid that? I mean, what do you do to make sure that you don't get too obsessed with how many accolades you're getting? I mean, in this other show we host, Gatekeepers, all these successful people say the same thing, which is if you're in it for the accolades, if you're in it for the attention, you're in the wrong industry.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think for me, I try to focus on just doing the work, and when I feel like I've done something that's truthful and honest, and something that's like vulnerable and almost not something that I'm proud of, or it feels kind of ugly and not something that it almost feels like it was bad because it was like real. That's why I do it. Like if you tell a story, I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah.
So, but I think it is such an interesting point, and I wonder if lots of people would identify with this film, especially where we are in our society today, because so many people use things like social media, Instagram, Twitter, to get that feeling of being a celebrity.
Yeah,
get that feeling of
yeah.
validation of how many accolades did I get today on this photo.
Yeah, there's a really great moment in the new movie about David Foster Wallace, The End of the Tour, where David Foster Wallace says, the problem is that when you're not selling, you think that any book that sells has to suck, and that's how you live. And then once you start selling, you have this warped sort of mindset, because this one justification you used to use now applies to you, and you kind of inherently hate yourself. And I think that that's so true. It's like, as a writer, I'm like, my stuff is just too edgy for like the mainstream. But then as soon as it goes mainstream, I'm like, oh, it's great. So anyway, next film, Ghost Fighting Corporation, which is written and directed by Jack Hayward and Dean Dobbs, who are very fluffy YouTube celebrities, and they're from the UK. And it's starring Jack and Dean and Sophie Wu as people who fight ghosts in this house. It's very slapstick, silly, crazy, whatever. These two have about 33 million views from 750K subscribers, so they're doing something right.
That's true.
I found it extremely saccharine, but Maria, why don't you tell us why you liked it?
Well, I have this thing where I really, really am tired of short films that are two people sitting along in a room talking and nothing happens. And this did a thing that I really enjoy, where it opens with really light, pretty classic chamber music and a bunch of destruction going on. And that was kind of what got my attention and made me keep watching. I do want to say, though, that I had never seen anything the guys who made this, I'd never seen anything they did beforehand. So I just came across this short and was like, oh, this is really cool. What else is on this channel? And then I was like, oh, this is a lot of like YouTube stuff. That's interesting. Because I was kind of hoping for more short films instead of like vlogging, which is what I found. Right. Not to slam vlogging, like go you, but I would like to see them do more narrative stuff. But I also have a weakness for sort of bumbling con artists, which is definitely a thing that comes into play here. So I thought it was really fun. And it's definitely my line of humor, where a lot of comedy stuff that I came across was not, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I thought that the two guys were great. I enjoyed them.
Even with the hair, that guy's hair?
I laughed out loud.
It's because he's a YouTube star. That's a proven thing.
I mean, I literally laughed out loud on a couple of occasions. I did have some fun with it. It's very poorly shot. I mean, it's not lit well. It's not framed well. It's, the sound is, so it's not great on those levels. But those two guys are really fun to watch. My biggest problem with it is that they don't ever talk about wanting to be like, what's it called? What's the title again? What's the exact title again?
Ghost Fighting Corporation.
They never talk about wanting to be ghost fighters, and then all of a sudden this girl comes into the picture and she's a fraud, and oh, we found out you're a fraud, so we're gonna form the Ghost Fighting Corporation, which is a great idea, but has nothing to do with the story up to that point.
Well, but they do kind of establish that the one character has been out of work for a while, and he keeps trying to be like, hey, so you need to set up a hotline, you need to set up a website. Like, he's trying to get in with her from the moment he meets her.
I know, I mean, I guess that's true. There's like little things, but overall, I think that part of the story was so underdeveloped. And if it had been more developed, if it were these guys who like actually really wanted to be ghost hunters or something, that would have been a hysterical short film. And as it was just really clever with, two pretty funny performances.
I agree. I think it could have used a really strong edit, because it read like, I could imagine them two in a room and them brainstorming, being like, oh yeah, and what if that happened, and what if that happened, and then what if we did this, and what if we did this? And it's as if they just wrote it down and then stuck with it. Right. Where they didn't go back and be like, okay, well, we need to tie this in and make this a through line.
It's like they had a neat idea and had no idea how to develop it.
And they were just like, we're funny, like, it's gonna be great.
That's what I mean. It was incredibly clever and not developed at all.
But was it incredibly clever?
Yeah, in moments. In moments it was clever. I mean, saccharin can be clever, It's just saccharin, but it still can be clever.
I don't know. We were just talking about it, that when something is super popular, that means that this, to me, just was the absolute lowest common denominator. Like, this is for people who I have nothing in common with. The people who watch this. Like, I watched this and it was just like, this is like a child's, like something you watch at like, Chuck E. Cheese's when you're like 10 years old. Like goofy characters with funny hair, like.
You're really caught up on this guy's hair,
aren't
man.
they funny,
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting that you're so kind of stuck on his hair. What is it?
It was absurd.
Yeah, but look at how many of the really popular YouTubers have that hairstyle.
Yeah, why? It's
I
the
don't
lowest
know.
common denominator. It's like the #1 video on YouTube is a dog farting. It's like people just like this inane, meaningless crap.
I think it in a way, it's very easy to watch. It's sort of like junk food. You can just have it on and watch it, and there's something very effortless about watching it, mind-numbing about watching it. I have to say, I did have to watch it twice, and still the whole, like, a lot of the moments are just lost on me. I couldn't really tell you the full story.
It was like
Because I felt myself zoning out.
You know what?
It challenged
I think
me to pay
it's
attention.
zero challenging. It's candy.
But see, I think inadvertently you've brought up a really interesting conversation about the relationship between entertainment and art. Without meaning to, I think. Who would have thought that this film would do that? But, but you know, there is a difference. There's definitely a difference, right? And I think as a lot of serious creative people think that any creative work has to be art first. It obviously has to entertain, or else it's just gonna, no one's ever gonna watch it, right? But I think there are too many people who don't see the value in just entertainment. And this is just entertainment. It doesn't purport to be art, it's not art, it doesn't want to be that, but it is entertaining. It's entertaining in the same way a reality TV show is entertaining. There's something about it that people can latch onto, and that's why it has millions of views or whatever it's got.
So which is more important in what we do? Is it art or entertainment? What's our goal?
I think that's different to each person. Like, everybody has their own idea of what they're in it for and what they're doing. I'm the sort of person who, like, I will watch some of the films that are artsy and just be like, I am so bored right now.
Right.
I really wish I could care, and I don't. I would take something that, even with a slightly sloppy narrative, is fun to watch over something that's like a tone poem any day.
Yeah, one of my best friends used to have a magnet on his refrigerator that said, a lot of art is boring, right? And it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true, because I think a lot of people who focus on the art forget that it has to be entertaining too. And then they get mad at the people who only focus on the entertainment, forgetting that entertainment is an end in and of itself. It may or may not be my cup of tea or your cup of tea, right? But there is value in it. There's absolutely value in it. It is a billion-dollar industry, right?
I don't know, but
and
I
it's a
feel like
billion-dollar
the
industry
entertainment-
because people are watching it. They're consuming it. They want it. They're getting something of value out of it. And I mean, we could go down this rabbit hole about the chicken or the egg and whether people are watching what they're being fed or whether they're being fed that because that's what they actually want.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go on and have that conversation, but on some level, it's satisfying something for people.
Yeah, maybe there's a balance here, but entertainment has completely almost cannibalized art all the way, at least when we're talking about the stuff that is in front of a lot of us.
Right.
And I think that it's an impossible battle to fight because entertainment's easier and art takes digestion and it takes a little bit of strength in order to get it. But the point of all of this stuff that we do is ultimately art, at least to me.
In so many other countries, there's public support, and I mean by public I mean the government. There's public support for the arts, and therefore the population values it more, right? On this point, I 100% agree with you, right? Because as a society, we don't see the value of it enough, right? We don't do that thing that they do in other countries where they basically subsidize it so that people are sort of forced to get it, right? Because it's good medicine for them, right? And as a result, because we don't get that as much in this country, right? We have started, and it's been going on for years, to lose our appreciation for art in favor of the easy thing of entertainment.
Yeah, and
on that point, I
art.
100% agree.
And we need art not just as we learned in the interview with Paul Haggis. Art is not a mirror held up to society. It is a hammer with which to change it. It's a Bertolt Brecht quote that I learned from him. So anyway, that's my opinion. Up next, we have Stray. Speaking of art that has an ability to make us think a little bit, it's directed by Taylor Glatt and it's written by Dustin Brooks and Lewa Nasruddin, and it's starring Dustin Brooks. It's a thought experiment, and I like thought experiments. That's why I chose this. It's a world in which gay is straight and straight is gay, so being gay is sort of comically the mainstream, and being straight is the you know, counterculture, and everybody's afraid to come out of the closet as straight, and
Right.
little kids who play with power tools and they're men are like shunned because they're straight. So it's kind of funny and goofy. What did you think, Astrea? Did you think this was a effective thought experiment?
I thought as an idea, I was really into it. I thought it created it did make you think about the world and what that world would be like, and then it holds a reflection up to what we do in this world. I was bothered by the way they did it.
Right.
But I always crave something that's more nuanced. I always crave something that's a little more grounded.
Well, something that's just not stereotypes, but
yeah, it really bothered me the way it was just slapped with stereotype after stereotype. And I think there is a smart way to do that, to use the stereotypes, to go big, to go over the top, to do a caricature of a stereotype. However, I thought some shots were a little cheap. Some characters were a little cheap. Some scenes, some relationships.
Like what?
Let's take the breakup scene with the boyfriend in the very beginning. He holds up underwear that's not, or it's women's underwear.
It's women's underwear.
And he has this whole big gay freak out.
Which says, I don't wear purple.
Or no, green.
No, I don't
Green,
wear
I
washes
don't wear
me out.
green. You know I don't wear green.
Yeah, because it washes you out.
Yeah.
And it is funny, but it didn't drive the point home in a way that I really think it had the opportunity to.
Like low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, if you just had a real breakup, really grounded in reality, it would have really done the same thing. And that, I think, would have been the bolder way to shoot this.
Yeah, it did seem like it couldn't quite find its stride between comedy and... It couldn't quite find what it was a little bit. With comedy, drama, like it didn't have the tone consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I basically agree with everything that Astrea said about this. I think that it definitely made you think, right? It evoked a reaction, for sure, no doubt about it. But, I mean, there are so many levels on which this was offensive, not because of the idea. The idea is great, right? But then if you want to do that movie, don't present every gay stereotype in existence. And that's what this movie did. Mm-hmm. If you make this movie with real human beings who happen to be homosexual, right? Then it's funny, right? But this just felt like this weird excuse to get away with exploiting stereotypes.
But there was just as many stereotypes on the straight side. I mean, it was stereotypes of everything. Oh, Maria didn't like that. Go ahead.
Just like this whole, I've never been so tempted to turn off a short someone has sent me for this show ever before. The whole thing was like, oh my God, is this what this show is? It is. And I've seen this before, like 4 or 5 times, and with varying levels of effectiveness, I guess, but it's so gross. Like, if you have to kind of steal the narrative of an oppressed, and they're making a point to make these people oppressed. So if you have to steal the narrative of an oppressed demographic in order to make it empathetic, you're doing something horribly wrong. A couple years ago, there was a book that came out called, like, I think it was Save the Pearls, and it was about this society that was all about black people, and there was a white girl who was doing blackface to survive in it. And that was slammed in every form. But this is kind of not that far off. It's the same sort of narrative, but it's somehow more
But aren't
acceptable.
stereotypes, to me this was about stereotypes, and stereotypes are funny.
No, I mean, you can do stereotypes honestly. I mean, the whole reason stereotypes become stereotypes is because they're real, because they happen a lot. But there's a difference between that and portraying the stereotypical behavior honestly, right? They were doing caricatures of it.
Yeah.
You know, and by the way, and you and I have had this debate so many times on other issues, not on this show, but you can't say, well, there were stereotypes of straight people too, and this is, I think, kind of the point that you were making. You can't say that it's okay that they made, you know, they created all of these caricatures of gay people just because they did it with straight people too, right? I'm sorry, but the majority has to deal with being made fun of, right? We get all the other benefits of being the majority, so you can make fun of us.
So it's illegal, it's wrong to make fun of a minority? That's wrong.
No, it's not. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that you can't say because we did it to the majority too, that you get to do it to the minority.
I'm not saying it's because one or the other. I'm just saying it seemed to be about over-the-top stereotypes, and I just found it hilarious. Maybe because I'm immature, maybe because I'm behind the curve, but...
I think it just missed the audience that they were maybe trying to target as well.
Yeah.
Because as people, I'm pretty sure that we're all quite liberal-minded here. We all could recognize that it could have been funny, it was funny to some people, but I think about the people that they were probably trying to target and subvert their thoughts on being gay in America. And I don't think they would have cared. I don't think they would have found it funny. I don't think they would have been like, yeah, you're right. You know what? I think being gay is fine.
Yeah, I don't know if this was, it's a good question. I don't know if this was made by gay or straight people. I have the suspicion that it was made by gay people.
Honestly,
I mean, who knows? I have no idea. But I think that that's probably why they were so comfortable with these stereotypes, because they were thinking, like, we're kind of making fun of ourselves. I would guess. I have no idea.
Honestly, it doesn't matter to me whether the people who made it were gay or straight. It's the narrative more than the characterization that I find really repulsive.
Interesting. Well, it's a sensitive time we're living in. Last up, we have Person to Person from writer-director Dustin Guy DeFay, and it's starring Bene Cooper-Smith and Durag Campbell. This guy DeFay seems to hire a lot of people with very strange names for his movies. He has another movie with a guy starring Kentucker. So I don't really know what's going on with that. They seem to be a very cool group. They were featured on The New Yorker and Vice, and they premiered at Sundance and showed at South by Southwest. So this is definitely a media darling of a film. I can't say that I was the biggest fan of it. It's about a woman who ends up at a guy's apartment the day after a party and she will not leave, which is kind of a fascinating idea. And it's, we talked last episode about It Follows and these things that kind of haunt you. And this is a literal haunting of a woman inside a man's house and she will not leave. Astrea, this was your pick. Why don't you tell us why you chose this film?
I really liked this film. I really did, and I will stick by that. I liked the experience of watching it for a few different reasons. I loved the aesthetic. It felt like I was going through someone's old photo album, or like little Polaroid pictures, and getting just a snap. I really liked that feeling. It made me feel like I was inside someone's world that I wouldn't be able to see otherwise. I also really liked that it felt like watching a short story. It felt very like fiction based in an actual book sense of the word. It felt like a Salinger short story to me. The way it was set up, the way they used other characters, the way they just let the scene be quiet.
Right.
And you could see a lot of stuff happening internally with the characters. And the way that the relationship was set up with not a whole lot of dialogue. It was just the experience, the setting, the stakes, the circumstances. Right. And they were all weird. They were oddballs, they were funny looking. They were odd characters.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll start with the things I liked about this film. I think it's a great idea. I really do.
It is a good idea. I'll agree with that.
The notion, just
somebody won't leave their house. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what a neat thing to explore, and so simple. And I also thought that the woman, the actress, and what's her name again?
Her name is Durag.
Okay. Well, I thought she was incredibly effective. I really did, and I've been using that word a lot tonight. But I think it's once again apropos. I mean, she just has that quality that draws you in. I don't know what it is, but she's incredibly engaging. She was honest, right? In a weird situation, like I believed her within the weirdness, right? She made the weirdness somehow make sense to me. And I just enjoyed watching her. My problem with this movie, and I sort of have to back up a little bit to frame this. I was saying to you guys before the show that I almost never read up about a movie before I watch it because I don't want to be influenced at all, right? And so as I'm watching this movie, I'm like, oh, it's a writer, director, actor, right? This guy wrote this movie for himself, you know. And I'm like, okay, fine. He's trying to be Woody Allen, in 2015, and that's all good. And then I got to the end, and I was floored to find out that he was not the writer, director. That this guy had actually been cast. I couldn't believe it. Because
he's also not an actor.
Well, he's not an actor. So
but that's the thing, right? Why?
The reason why is because this director loves this guy. He loves this guy, Ben A. Coopersmith, who I think is this character in real life. He is a guy who owns one of these record shops in Brooklyn. He is a man of the community, such and such, right?
Okay, but
so he wanted, in his interviews, he's saying he wants to showcase this guy.
Well, that's fine. Then make a documentary,
yeah.
Right? I mean, don't take this real guy and put him into a narrative story with a real actress, right? That's so disjointed. It makes no sense. Unless he's trying to create a new form. If that's what he's trying to do, then do it. But he's clearly trying to tell a narrative story. There's nothing new about the form whatsoever. It's an interesting story idea, but the form is the form, right? He's not trying to do something new. He just picked a weird guy, and I don't mean weird like strange. I mean, it's just an odd choice. It was such a disjointed choice. It was so distracting. And all that stuff that you mentioned has nothing to do with this movie.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with the movie at all.
It's just like this is a guy that I think is cool. It felt like a lot of people who think that they're very picturesque getting together and showing how picturesque they are to the world. It's like, look at this life of these bohemians in Brooklyn, and look at this like cool guy, and like, oh, it's so diverse. But see,
that
and like he seemed like he was an actor in his own life. Like these people
he's definitely not an actor.
No, but I'm saying like exactly. He's an actor. Like I didn't even believe him as him. Like
right.
He just seemed like a complete. Like watching him made me feel like I was watching Iggy Azalea. Like that's
right.
how I felt watching this
film. I thought that was part of what they were trying to say with the film, though.
Okay.
I thought one of the things that I took away from it, maybe just I took it away because of the way it was shot, the way it was cast, was that there are these people who establish themselves as people of the community. Hey, come on into my shop. You can just hang out here, blah 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 blah. But then when someone is actually invading his space, he has all of these little quirks and is particular and on edge and has these boundaries.
But then he always got to explain himself. Anyway, sorry, Maria. What's your take? You're the fourth vote here.
I didn't really like it. It was pretty. It was interesting visually, I guess, for kind of the same way that you liked it. It felt like weirdly vintage and textured, and it was an aesthetic that I enjoyed. But I'm pretty sure I've had this nightmare. Like I've definitely had people who stayed longer than they should, and that really just creates this feeling of anxiety in me. And to me, the character that should have been awkward and kind of hard to watch was the girl. And it was definitely the guy that I felt that way about. So it was this weird dissonance that I didn't really buy into, didn't really like.
Yeah, he was hard to watch. I mean, I admit I have a little bit of schadenfreude about this, I suppose, just because, for whatever reason. But I just really, I don't know, it just seemed to be extremely self-indulgent.
Well, see, that's the weird thing, though. That's what made me think that it was writer, director, actor.
Yeah.
Right? The thing is that this is a really good movie without that guy.
Without that guy in it. Yeah.
You know?
No, it's
So
a very
your
interesting
main.
idea, this.
I mean,
you think it would have been great if it was cast differently? Like if it was a different guy?
Just anybody who's like even like the most has been acting for, I don't know, a month, right?
So you knew the information was distracting, knowing that he was just a guy, or.
But the thing is that it's not like I knew that because I read it ahead of time. You just know it. You get to a point where you know when someone is a real person, right? And you know when they're an actor. And you just immediately knew he was a real person, and nothing else in the movie had anything to do with him being a real person, right? I mean, this guy shot a movie like he was sort of it was almost like a white Spike Lee movie, in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is that Spike does two things that this guy doesn't do. Number one, he uses all of his own quirkiness and the quirkiness of his neighborhood in the style of his film. He doesn't just shoot quirky, weird things in his neighborhood. He turns it into an entire style that he integrates into the film, right? And he, for the most part, uses actors.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't. I mean, except for the couple of times he's appeared in his own movies, and we can argue about whether he's an actor or not, right?
But he at least shows himself with an objective eye, whereas this was almost like hero worshiping of this image of this like last Jewish, record store owner in Brooklyn opening up his shop in the morning.
I think there's a bunch of projection going on. I'm just going to call you out on that. Because
you're probably right.
There's a whole lot of judgment.
Yeah,
I think because that is a truth for some people. That is actually their life. It's tricky the place we are in 2015 where everyone's trying to curate their lives to look vintage, throwback, nostalgic. But that is the truth for some people. And some people have built their life around that. But then once we see that, if it is the truth, there are issues with it, yes. But then we have to deal with all the projections and judgments that we already have just because it looks like that and it deals with this place.
That's true. That's a good point.
I think that's a lot of what's going on.
Yeah.
But I also, on the other side of the coin, I am kind of sick of people just telling their own story.
Right.
Because it's, tell the story you know.
Yeah.
I'm over like all these different renditions of girls that's happening. I'm over people in their young 20s talking about feeling lost.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Short on Shorts. We'd like to thank our guest Astrea so much for coming in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you have going on?
Sure. I just had a film premiere at the San Antonio Film Festival. It's called Till We Meet Again. It's a film we shot last year in Thailand. It's an indie drama about backpackers. And I will be on season 2, episode 4 of Gotham.
Woo!
Congratulations! Thank you so much.
As who?
I'm going to be the leader of a chick gang in Gotham. So you'll see me looking like Daryl Hannah from Blade Runner.
Oh, cool.
Kicking ass, taking names, stuff like that.
Harley Quinn type role?
Very much so.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you so much, Astrea. And it was great to have you guys watching us again. Tune in 2 weeks for our next episode of Short on Shorts. If you want to have your film reviewed on Short on Shorts, make a profile on Colaborator.com and join the Shorts You Review group. There you can post your film and we will watch it and consider it for a review on here. Thank you so much again, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.